Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Tuesday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How are you doing today on this Tuesday?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to the show. We get the second round of first-round picks. And we're going to talk about the play-in game tonight, which should be fun to watch, and also who's going to be the MVP of the NBA.
Let's begin with our first topic of today's show.
After brutal overtime loss to the Clippers over the weekend, the Warriors are stuck in a play-in tournament after fighting for a playoff spot. They face a familiar play-in rival in the Memphis Grizzlies, who sent them home in the play-in back in 2021 with a 117-112 overtime loss. Who secures a playoff spot tonight, Nate? Warriors or Grizzlies?
I have never been less confident in the Golden State Warriors in my life. The past 5 games at home have been abysmal. They're 2-3 out of the last 5. It's bad. Very, very bad. And if they do lose against the Grizzlies tonight, this would be 4 straight home losses for a team that is extremely experienced. The head of the spear is Steve Kerr, who has won championships up the wazoo. He's winning over and over and over again as a player, as a head coach. He created the best dynasty in the 2010s, in my opinion. And Steph Curry is right there, a unanimous MVP, a multi-time MVP winner, who just won an NBA Finals MVP a couple years ago in 2022. And then Draymond Green, who has really been the glue to keep this Warriors unit together, even when things got a bit rough, like a couple years ago with the Jordan Poole situation. Draymond Green's role is not to go out there and score a bunch of points. He's more of the offensive catalyst, setting Steph Curry up, setting the offense up, being the transition guy. And somehow they're falling apart at the seams. That overtime performance against the Los Angeles Clippers to end the regular season was embarrassing. They let James Harden do whatever they want, and whatever he wants. And then Draymond Green, open layup, was he down by 2, I think, down by 3? He decides to draw a foul, and it was the worst attempt at drawing a foul in my life. It was just a terrible, terrible play. You go up with the points to live another possession. Instead, he misses, and then they ended up losing that game. So, going into this game, my confidence level is at a relatively low level. But I will also say this. Memphis has struggled mightily against winning teams in the Western Conference. They haven't won a game against a team above 500 in the Western Conference since January. So when it comes to that side, I'm a little bit confident. I'm pretty confident about it. But when it's all said and done, let's talk about this performance, because Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors are in not great territory, because the play-in tournament, they're 0-3, and like you mentioned in the rundown, they lost one of the play-in games to this Memphis Grizzlies team. Now, not the exact one, but the fact that most of the key pieces of that loss are still there. So, also, Jimmy Butler doesn't have a tremendous history of the play-in tournament either, although because he lost that initial game to Atlanta, which we were stunned by, and then he eventually ended up beating the Bulls, which then sparked that NBA Finals run. And he's been pretty good, and especially scoring-wise as of late, pretty good for the Golden State Warriors. I think I am going to give it to the Warriors, though, tonight, though. I don't feel great about picking them. They're 7.5-point favorites, but I don't feel great with that pick, because we could see a game like we saw against the Memphis Grizzlies where Stephen Curry goes 0 for 7, 0 for 6 from 3, only puts up 2 points, and they get blown out and they give up 144 points. Or we could see a Steph Curry game like we saw early April against the Grizzlies where he dropped 52 with 12 threes. So it really depends on how Steph Curry comes out and performs, because he can come out on fire, and then, in my opinion, there is no player in the NBA who I fear more when he's on fire as much as Steph Curry. So if he's on fire, then I'd be very confident, obviously, in picking them. So I am going to pick the Warriors this time. I think the combination of the addition of Jimmy Butler was a massive impact, both offensively and defensively, because not only do teams have to worry about Steph Curry getting hot, now Jimmy Butler could be a nice facilitator, and he's drawing a bunch of fouls, which is very key for the Golden State Warriors, who were bottom 5 in the NBA before Jimmy Butler got there in free throw attempts per game. So I think it's going to come down to obviously the 2 stars of the team in Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry, but also this will be a bench matchup, because what's interesting is that the Warriors and the Grizzlies are 3 and 2 respectively. The Grizzlies are number 2, the Warriors are number 3 in bench scoring. And the Warriors have outscored the Memphis Grizzlies bench. They're 2 and 2. 2 times the Grizzlies bench outscored the Warriors bench, and however the Warriors, like I mentioned, are 3 and 1 in the series so far in the season series. I think it's going to be funny what Steve Kerr does though with Jonathan Kuminga. because he didn't play against the Clippers. And he said recently that he found a lineup that works that doesn't include Jonathan Kuminga. So what could the future look like of Kuminga's status on the Golden State Warriors? I'm not entirely sure. But I'm going to trust the veteran leadership. I'm going to say that fourth time's the charm here. The Warriors get it done. I think Steph Curry has a great game. I think he's going to be dropping between 28 and 37 points to move on to secure that playoff spot, to secure the 7th seed, and then play a Houston Rockets team that, again, has me shaking in my boots a little bit. But I will take the Warriors tonight at home in the playing game.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I think the Warriors are going to win as well. I'm not sure they cover 7.5 points, though. That's a pretty big point spread. Both teams are 48 and 34. The game, I think it favors the Warriors to be playing at home, of course, right? But as you say, they haven't done very well playing at home. They're only, 6-4 in their last 10 at home, so that doesn't bode so well for them. The fifth meeting between these two teams, the Warriors up 3-1, so that's a positive for the Warriors. The Warriors have won 7 in the last 10 and covered 6-3-1 in their last 10. The Grizzlies are 22-19 on the road with a point differential of 5. But as you mentioned, they can't beat a Western team, so that favors the Warriors. The Warriors' record at home, I mentioned, 6-4 in their last 10. The odds, the Warriors are -314, the Grizzlies +252. That's a pretty big spread favoring the Warriors. The Warriors -7.5 right now. The Warriors have dominated the Grizzlies this season, except for one game. Jimmy Butler helps strengthen their defense and provides a strong secondary scorer to Curry. The Warriors are a different and more dangerous team, I think, since acquiring Butler. They've gone 23-7 since he joined the team, which is a great record. The Grizzlies' defense has been poor of late. They didn't experience a bump from their new head coach since firing Taylor Jenkins. They went 4-5, although they lost their first 3, I think, and then they improved some. Overall 4-5 under their new coach. The Grizzlies won 3 of their last 5, but they beat Dallas, Charlotte, and Detroit. So it wasn't like they were knocking off the leaders.
Don't
in the
disrespect
NBA.
Detroit.
Detroit is respectable, and that was a close game. The Warriors have only won 2 of their last 5. They beat Portland and Phoenix, which you'd expect, but they lost the Clippers, as you said, in a very discouraging fashion in overtime. They lost to San Antonio as well and Houston. Draymond Green, he thinks they're going to be fine, having to win a play-in game. He said the playoffs, you're playing, there's no back-to-back games or anything like that, so just got to get out there. We'll be all right. If we just got to get there. If we get in, we'll be all right. We're not senior citizens. We're high-level basketball players. We've been training all year for this. No disrespect to senior citizens. By the way, we love our senior citizens. He said Warriors are relying on, but I think this is an interesting stat and a telling one. And I do think they're going to get beyond this game, and they'll get the 7th seed. Then they got to go against Houston, which is scary, I agree. But are they going to be able to make it to the finals? I mean, the Warriors are relying on Steph Curry's 37 years old. Butler is 35 years old, and Draymond Green's 35 years old. So they got a lot of experience, but they could get worn down in this having to play maybe 2 play-in games to get to the to get into the playoffs. Butler has been strong for them, 17, almost 18 points a game, 6 assists, 5.5 rebounds. Curry, 24.5 points, 6 assists, 311 three-pointers this year, more than 300 for the 6th time in his career. Only 4 of the players have made 300 in a single season. So he's amazing. He's amazing. And when he gets it going, look out. They're not going to be beat if he can get it going. But again, he's either up or he's down. So we'll have to see how he goes tonight. The Warriors' rebounding could be a concern too. They were terrible against the Clippers. And going up against the Grizzlies, it's going to be tough because the Grizzlies, that's one of their strengths. They crash the boards. So we'll have to see. Curry says on that point, we need to get them in transition, secure rebounds, and 50-50 balls to win the game. I say the Warriors win, but I'm not sure they cover. I don't think they're going to cover the 7.5 point spread.
I think it is key what you just brought up, the rebounding, because the Grizzlies are second in the NBA in rebounds per game. And since Jimmy Butler got to the Warriors, they actually have 51.8 rebounds. However, crashing on the other side, they give up 50.1 rebounds per game since Jimmy Butler got there, and they just only rebounded 25 boards against the Clippers, which was their worst all year, and they're 32-17 when they out-rebound their opponent, 14-18 when they don't. So, yeah, I agree. It's going to be going deep in your bench, put out Guy Santos, try to get some of your big guys there, have Quinn and Post out there to try to get some boards, because he could also hit a couple threes occasionally and be a good offensive piece when you need him, when you need to expand that bench a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see that, but I think the key right now is this team needs to not be shut down. Against the Houston Rockets, Curry could do nothing, absolutely nothing. They shut him down, and one of the keys is going to be to take out Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr. What's interesting is that Draymond Green and this Golden State Warriors team, they kind of know how to get under Triple J's skin, because if we remember the April 1st loss to Golden State, Butler actually baited Jaren Jackson Jr. into a sixth foul in crunch time late in the game. And also, we have to realize that he's fouled out five times, I think, this season. Grizzlies are 1-4 in those games, and the only win was a 151-148 win in overtime to the Phoenix Suns. Nobody respects the Phoenix Suns. They just fired Budenholzer, their head coach, and they're looking for a trade partner with Kevin Durant. So they're blowing that team up. So I don't know how much you really want to put on that. I guess valiant effort to come out on top in overtime. Also, if we just don't even worry about the fouling out, how about just a lot of fouls, 5 fouls? They're 6-13 Memphis is when Triple J has 5 fouls. So you get one of the best like we're talking about a defensive player of the year candidate, and he did win a few years ago. If you get him into foul trouble, that decreases the defensive prowess that the Grizzlies can have, and then that opens up the game offensively for Draymond down low. That opens it up for Curry outside, helps out Jimmy Butler as well, mid-range drawing fouls and everything like that. So I'm going to give it to the Warriors. They need to crash the boards like you mentioned. They need to come on top, and Curry can't go 0 for 7 in a game. You can't let that happen.
Right. And it'll be interesting to see if Draymond Green can keep his cool. Every once in a while he has a meltdown and gets himself ejected from games. I hope that doesn't happen tonight. Ja Morant, we didn't say much about him.
He's a great player.
To see what he does. He can be a difference maker in this game, but I think it comes down to Curry and how he plays and how Jimmy Butler supports him, and whether Jimmy Butler can get to the line like he's been doing, which is a plus for the Warriors who've had trouble with that. And whether Draymond Green can, score a double-double at least. I think that's important. And, and as you say, Kuminga, they're looking to have lineups without him in there and talking about that. That's a little concerning. I thought he was one of their pieces for the future.
You might have thought of that. There was rumors about potential trades a couple of years ago last year, so we'll see what happens when the season ends, but it's interesting. Steve Kerr's trying to find lineups without him in it, and he got a DNP against the Clippers. So
I think the
coach's decision.
I think the Warriors have got to get beyond, got to get at least to the second round and do well in the second round to avoid talks about blowing that team up. Look at the age.
You wouldn't blow it up.
They got Butler 35, Green 35, and Curry 37. They're not going to part ways with Curry. He's there forever.
Right. No, you wouldn't blow up the team. You would ride it out. That's the whole thing. You're going to ride Curry out, Steve Kerr's contract, Draymond Green. Oh, Draymond Green, I don't know, trade potentially. But, no, you would ride out all these contracts. You would ride them out until the very end, until they all retire or they move on elsewhere when their contracts are up, or you trade them maybe next year. I don't think this team gets blown up, though. You actually have a decent young core that you could work around. But this team is on its very, very last licks here, because there's maybe 2 years left.
If they don't make it very far in the playoffs.
Correct. Let's get to our next topic here.
There's a risk they might not get in, right?
Well, yeah. Then you go up against go up against the winner of Sacramento and the Dallas Mavericks, who the Warriors are each 2-2 against both those teams.
Yeah.
And Anthony Davis is back and healthy.
Yeah.
That could be a serious X factor in that game. Let's get into our next topic here.
Sure. Okay, so all season long there's been a big debate on who will be the NBA MVP, Jokic or SGA. As it currently stands, DraftKings has SGA as a heavy favorite at minus 1,400, and Jokic a plus 1,200. Who takes home the 2025 NBA MVP, SGA or Nikola Jokic?
I've said repeatedly on the show that I do think it should be Jokic. But, again, this is head over heart. That's what I'm going for. And I'd rather be right when it comes to being accurate than saying, you know what, just because I feel like it, I'm going to pick one player. So I'm going to take the favorite. I'm going to take SGA because I think voter fatigue is a legitimate thing. We did that with Jokic already with the Joel Embiid thing. The Joel Embiid turned out to be just like a gimme. It didn't really matter because now we're seeing that he misses a bunch of games. He's not really putting up great numbers when it matters the most. He's a playoff choker. So it's like, okay, well, is he real? Did he deserve that MVP, or should we have given it to Jokic? And I think the universal thought is Jokic probably should have won that. And now coming off a back-to-back MVP, Jokic is having his best statistical season of his entire career when it comes to points, rebounds, and assists collectively. And also 3-point, he's shooting over 41% from three. So you can't say he's having a down year. In fact, he's having an up year. But when it comes down to it, there's a reason why SGA is the heavy favorite. And that's because he's on a team that's won 68 games. He's been the best player on the best team. And the win difference between the Denver Nuggets and the Oklahoma City Thunder is a grand total of, 18 games, I'm pretty sure? So if you have that disparity, that's massive. And I thought, when you looked at the spreads last year when it came to Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic, I thought the point spread should have been much closer. That win spread was only a 7 difference. So it's a little bit different. And that year, actually, Doncic had, you could argue, better numbers. He averaged 33, 9, and 9. But I do think it is going to be SGA. Because historically, that's just the way the NBA has worked. 68 plus wins, you're going to win the MVP. Let's go down history, shall we? Stephen Curry, 2015-16, he won the MVP, and they won over 68 games. The 1995-96 Bulls, Jordan won the MVP, and they won over 68 games. The 1972 Lakers is a little bit different because Wilt and Jerry West both fought each other and took away votes, so Kareem ended up winning. I think the Bucks that year had 67 wins. But that's a interesting case because you had two serious MVP candidates, the number 2 and the number 3 place MVP vote getters in Jerry West and also Wilt Chamberlain. Speaking about Wilt, 1966-67 Sixers. Wilt won the MVP and they won over 68 games. And we actually have an instance where in my opinion, second best player of all time, Michael Jordan, he dealt with voter fatigue in 1997 when he won over 68 games and did not win the MVP. So when it comes down to it, that's just kind of what? I'm not sure who won in Karl Malone. He won in 1997. So when it comes down to it, it's kind of just how the NBA works. And these are the numbers for Nikola Jokic this season. They're actually incredible. He's a point center. So, I mean, he's doing things that really nobody has seen when it comes to being a center. Being the best passer in the NBA, at least as a big man. Being a tremendous rebounder, putting up tremendous amounts of points. Shooting 41% from three, 57% from the floor. I mean, he's being incredible. And also, what about SGA this year? 32 points a game. He obviously has fewer rebounds at 5. He's 6.4 assists. His field goal percentage is less and 3-point percentage is less. And this is just the comp between the two of them. So, obviously, you could look at the numbers and say, well, Jokic is better. Well, we could say that about anybody when it comes to that. We could say that Embiid's numbers are always great. Luka Doncic should have won an MVP. And last year, it's the same thing as SGA this year, I think. The argument is essentially the same. Who's the most valuable player on arguably one of the best teams? Because last year, if I'm not mistaken, they were tied. The Denver Nuggets were tied with OKC last year at 57 wins, and I'll just fact-check myself. Correct. The Denver Nuggets were tied as the number 1 spot. So there you go. The number 1 spot, the best player on the number 1 seed in at least the Western Conference when it comes to MVP favorites normally wins. And when it comes to 68 wins or more, you're going to win it. That's just what the case is. That does not take anything away from Jokic's season, and I do think we could all talk about eventually as history progresses, did Nikola Jokic get robbed? Is this the greatest season a player's had and has not won the MVP? We could definitely have that discussion. I think at some point it'll come to fruition that probably, yeah, to be honest, yeah. But then we could also just take a look at NBA history and say, well, voter fatigue. That's all it is. LeBron should have won more MVPs. Michael Jordan should have won more MVPs. Look, you can look at any tremendous NBA player who put up great statistical numbers in a given season and say that player should have won the MVP because of X, Y, Z. But it comes down to it, SGA is not on a team that's having its worst defensive rating season of its franchise's history, like Nikola Jokic with the Denver Nuggets is. SGA has been a much better defender this season. He has more total win shares. He's much better defensively, like I mentioned. So when it comes down to it, SGA is on a team that's won 68 games. That's tied for the fourth best record in NBA history. He's scored 32 points a game. And we talk about the PER, which is interesting. You know, you go down sort of the advanced stats and you take a look at it. I'll say this right now. When it comes to, like, players that start a bunch of games, instead of the guys start 3 games and they get put on a leaderboard, talk about legitimate, full-time starters. Nikola Jokic has the best player efficiency rating in NBA history. More than LeBron, more than Jordan, more than Kareem, more than anyone, more than Wilt. Whatever you want to say, Nikola Jokic is number 1 in the NBA in PER. But this season, SGA has over 30 PER. The only other guard to do that this century is Steph Curry's unanimous MVP season in 2015-2016. So he's doing stuff that, or at least PER-wise, that has only been seen once this century. And so for all those reasons, we the minute things, and we could turn some screws here and there, polish it up a little bit to say, well, Nikola Jokic does X, Y, and Z. SGA can't. Yeah, I could argue that too. But then I'm also siding on the fact that voter fatigue is a legitimate thing. SGA's on a team that has won 68 games. He is the best player on that team. And normally, whether it's NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB, the best player. And sometimes when it comes to MLB, recently, because Mike Trout, the Angels were never the best team in the MLB. Mike Trout was just a tremendous player. And he was, you could definitely say he was far above and away better than the next best player. So maybe that's not a great example. But Shohei has been the best player in the MLB, and the Dodgers were always tremendous. And you know what? He's a phenomenal player. But when it comes especially to the NFL, it's normally best player on the best team wins the MVP. And I think this will be, in this case too, SGA will win the MVP.
Mm-hmm. I tend to agree with you that the number of wins that OKC has and also the voter fatigue work against Jokic. And I do think that SGA is in the driver's seat for the MVP. But I really think that when you look at Jokic's stats this year, they're just incredible. And he was MVP last year and the year before. And he has this year, his stats are better than either of those 2 years. So it's just incredible what he's been able to do, particularly on a team where, they fired their head coach. There was dissension there. They fired their GM. The supporting cast behind Jokic, I think, probably not as strong as behind SGA. So, the MVP usually is the player that makes the players around him better. I think Nikola Jokic has redefined the game in terms of his position. He's a point center. He averaged a triple-double this year. Just amazing. So, Fox and ESPN are favoring SGA to win. I think the fact is contributing to his selection, the best record, 68 wins for OKC. His stats, 32.6 points a game, 6.4 assists, 1.7 steals. His combination of scoring, team success, and all-around performance make him, I think, the leading contender. The winner is a player, and I think just looking at some of the criteria, the winner is a player who maintains a high level of performance, endures the rigors of an 82-game NBA schedule, which is not easy to do, shows up on a nightly basis, competes favorably against the better players, and helps his team win. The case for SGA, I mentioned his stats. His team won, and they won big. His team was dominant all season. They clinched the top seed in the Western Conference before April and did so by double-digit margin, double-digit wins, and his best argument and supposedly gives him an edge over Jokic. An MVP elevates his team in the following order: finished as the league's leading scorer, can shoot effectively from everywhere on the floor. He has a 51.9% field goal percentage this year, uncommon for a guard. Led the NBA in 50, 40, 30, and 20-point games. He'll be a strong candidate for one of the all-defensive teams as well, which is something you don't get with very often with a player that is a big offensive threat. Michael Jordan would be the other one that you'd think of that was excellent both ways. SGA,
you're making my case for me. Keep going.
Yeah. He's among the league leaders in steals as well. The case for Jokic, 29.8 points a game, 12.8 rebounds, 10.2 assists. He averages a triple-double. If he's the runner-up, he's the best runner-up of all time in my estimation. Only Wilt Chamberlain in 1961-62 compares 50.4 points a game, 25.7 rebounds. They didn't keep the steal stat back then, but he likely would have had a triple-double counting steals if they were keeping track of it in that year. Jokic finished the season in the top 3, scoring. He was number 3, rebounds number 2, assists number 2, and steals number 2, which has never been done before, never in the NBA's history. He averaged a triple-double and led the league in triple-doubles with 33, top 25 in three-point percentage. Nobody has done this as well. He had a 30-20-20 game. He had a 60-point triple-double game. He's arguably a top 10 player of all time, and he's just 30 years old. It's hard to imagine a player topping what he just did. If it's done, it'll probably be done by him again.
I don't disagree with that, actually. I think what's funny is he needs to win more, but you could argue based on production alone, if you just talk about the player themselves and you take away the accolades, just him as a player, don't worry about championships for right now because he hasn't won enough. Him as a player and his solo performance, you could argue he's a top 3 center of all time. I don't actually think that's an absurd take.
No, I'm saying he's a top 10 player.
If you want to create a little bit
of
a leeway, maybe top 5 center, because, yeah, you can list off a bunch of tremendous centers in NBA history. We're talking about Shaq. You're talking about Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I think Jokic deserves to be in that category. The only reason he can't be is because all those guys won multiple championships and multiple finals MVPs as well. So
that has something to do with the team that Jokic is
correct.
on.
When you don't have a single all-star teammate when they're playing for you in the entire
all
history
kinds of
that.
injuries all season.
Yeah.
With the second best player on the team hurt most lately and led to the firing of the coach. There's a lot of turmoil in that team, and it's unfortunate for him because if he had a supporting cast like Kareem had, right, or a supporting cast like Bill Russell had, or a supporting cast like Wilt Chamberlain had when he was on the Lakers, Jokic would be off the charts. He'd be winning the MVP every year. And Jokic has another factor going that none of these other centers had, a triple-double average for the year.
Only 3 players have done in NBA history.
More than 10 assists. More than 10 assists. What other center even comes close on the assist number, right? He's the distributor. He's the one controlling the scheme of the Nuggets. He's the one that's directing the offense. No other center does that. No other center's ever done that. He's redefined the game at the center position, and he's only 30 years old. I think he's going to win. I think he's going to win more MVPs.
He should.
I'd like to see him. I'd like to see the Nuggets get their act together and put a supporting cast around him, like some of these other teams have, that could have him win 68 games.
Well, the issue
without
is
much trouble.
Well, here's the big issue on it. They spent so much money in players that aren't massive impact players, and that's why, because we remember when they won the championship, we all talked about the tremendous depth that they have. Most of those key pieces left for bigger contracts because they couldn't afford them. They were cost cutting there. And now this is the team that Jokic is given. Jamal Murray never won, never made an All-Star game. MPJ never made an All-Star game. Aaron Gordon never made an All-Star game. Russell Westbrook didn't make an All-Star game with the Denver Nuggets. Obviously, he's made it over the course of his career, but with the Denver Nuggets, he hasn't made it. So it's honestly, on many levels, embarrassing. And I think give it 2 years, maybe less. We'll hear some rumors about Jokic wanting out. I don't think that would be absurd to say. Because at some point, I would pound my fist and say, I've been the best damn player for the past 5 seasons. I'm at the top of NBA charts of all time. And yet I can only win one. Like I said this before I heard it from any other major network. This season and what he's been doing is what LeBron did in the early Cavs seasons, where he carried a team to the NBA Finals and then ended up getting swept by the superior San Antonio Spurs. That if he somehow makes the finals this season, that's exactly what it would be. That's exactly what the season would be.
It'll be him carrying them.
It would have to be him carrying the Denver Nuggets to the NBA Finals, which we've seen him drop 50, 40, 60, and they lose. That's the interesting. They're 2-5 in games I think he scores 51 points or more, or 41 points or more. How? That's because you have nobody. It's Jokic or nothing. And that's not a recipe for success. LeBron did that in 2018 with the Cavs. They got swept by the Golden State Warriors, who had Klay Thompson. They had Steph Curry, Draymond Green. They had Andre Iguodala. They had Kevin Durant. They had everybody. And those are the teams that win.
Yeah.
The Nuggets won on Jokic playing well, Murray coming up big, Michael Porter Jr. having a couple good spots here and there, and their tremendous depth. You can't say that about this team, who really, it's Russell Westbrook.
I mean, when LeBron won the championship in Cleveland, they had
Kyrie hit the shot.
They had Kyrie, and they
had
Kevin Love. They had Kevin Love too, so they had a big three, and they had three elite players there.
I don't disagree.
And you look at the Nuggets; they got Jokic. That's about it.
Jamal Murray
could be. He has some great games. He
should be an all-star.
Yeah,
but again, the injury is a concern, and now you're going to the playoffs where it's a potential. He's expected to be back.
Are they a play-in?
No.
They're what?
I think they're the 4th seed of the season. I'll double check. Yeah, they're the 4th seed, so they will end up playing the Clippers.
Yeah, I think they could get by the Clippers.
The Clippers' recent performances, I don't feel that confident. I'm sure we'll talk about it on Friday's show, but we'll take a quick break. But coming up, we got our mock draft part 2, if you want to call it, picks 11 to 21. We'll break down each of those individual picks right after this break.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the content.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance. And why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Tuesday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of tonight's show.
Only 10 days to go until the 2025 NFL Draft. It's time to unveil part 2 of our first-round mock draft. Nate, who do you have going in the second part of your first-round mock draft?
Interesting way to display that. Let's talk about the top 10 picks, because let's see how we got here. So these are my top 10 picks. I don't actually, the one thing that I couldn't figure out exactly right, because I felt like it would have been an overdraft, because Ashton Genty is gone at number 6 in my mock draft, would be that Chicago Bears pick. I think that's an interesting one. And now with Derek Carr, that situation looks weird. Is Will Johnson still their pick, or could they reach on a Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, or whoever else if the Giants do in fact draft Shedeur Sanders? So this was my top 10 mock draft pick, obviously you can see on screen. So let's begin with the number 11 pick of the 2025 NFL Draft. San Francisco 49ers select, in my opinion, Jahdae Barron, cornerback out of Texas. The 49ers lost 17 players in free agency, notably Trevarius Ward over to, I believe, the Indianapolis Colts. And now with Robert Saleh back as the defensive coordinator, the 49ers are expected to use more of a quarters-heavy defensive scheme. Well, who falls in beautifully to that zone coverage quarters scheme? Well, that's my man Jahdae Barron. who's actually very proficient in both man and zone coverages. He also has an incredibly high football IQ, which does make him an ideal fit for this situation, because the 49ers also had one of the worst allowed separations in the NFL last year. So they need to work on their back end. You lost a key playmaker. You have a bunch of young guys there, but to secure depth and potentially get a starter for the defensive back, I think Barron will be a beautiful pickup for you. Last year, he allowed a 54.4% completion percentage. He allowed 0 touchdowns and picked off quarterbacks 5 times. And amongst cornerbacks in 2024, he was 5th in forced incompletions, 2nd in tackles, and 10th in missed tackle percentage. You got to get a secure starter. A lot of people think that Barron is the number 1 cornerback in this draft over Will Johnson, so I think you get a steal here at number 11 for the San Francisco 49ers. Let's go on to the next one. Number 12, the Dallas Cowboys. I got them selecting Tet McMillan, wide receiver out of Arizona. I think you desperately need a wide receiver opposite of CeeDee Lamb. And with a guy who's 6'5" with great agility and acceleration for his size, I think this will be a beautiful pickup. Now, he's not the most explosive receiver. I think that'll be more of a Michael Golden. I think Tet McMillan could be a beautiful piece because he has very fluid movements. He has incredible route running IQ. And I think with Dak Prescott, you need to have another talent to help him out, because we've seen Brandon Cooks and CeeDee Lamb do okay. Not great, but just okay. I could see them going running back, but I still think with Ashton Genty gone, you would have to reach on Henderson or Hampton at the number 12 spot. And because we're not doing trades, I can't say any of these teams trade back, which maybe makes sense if you don't like Tet McMillan or he's gone and you want to fill out a running back spot. But when it comes to Tet McMillan overall, though, he was 7th in deep catches, 4th in deep yards. Again, another deep ball threat. He won't get speed, but he will secure in those deep catches because he has incredible hands. He was 3rd in contested catches last year. And what's beautiful about him is he has experience in actually multiple spots on the field, out wide, in the slot, which allows the Cowboys, with a very young coaching staff, 15 first-time coaches with the Dallas Cowboys, 5 of which it's their first coaching experience in the NFL. You need a guy who could fill in any position that you need him to, and I think that's Tet McMillan, wide receiver out of Arizona. Let's go to number 13 pick. There's a little bit of controversy because of today's news. Does the Jalen Ramsey potential probable trade change my outlook for this pick? I'm going with no. I still have them picking Will Campbell, offensive tackle out of LSU. The Dolphins desperately need help on the offensive line. Armstead retired, so you have a massive gap in Tua Tagovailoa's blind side. And he is probably the most concussion-prone quarterback or player I have ever seen while I've been watching the NFL. So if you have an extremely injury-prone quarterback, and I think, honestly, concussion's probably more severe because it's your brain, you desperately need a tremendous blindside tackle. I guess in this case, no, it wouldn't be a blindside because he's left-handed. But still, you want to have a tremendous tackle helping you out on the edge anyway. And I think that's Will Campbell, who is widely regarded as the best tackle in this draft. His college career, he started all 38 games over 3 seasons at LSU. That's 2,553 snaps. 4 sacks allowed, 13 QB hits, 32 hurries. That's not bad when you're starting every game. So he's dependable, he's reliable, and you desperately need that. He was also last year 10th in pass block efficiency. So I think he is going to be a tremendous piece if the Dolphins do select him, and I think they should. He has incredible pre-snap awareness, calling out plays, calling out coverages. It's going to be a beautiful thing to watch on the offensive line. He has outstanding footwork and balance and posture. I think he would help out too in that offensive line, who really was not great last year. I think the Dolphins could take many routes. I think if Barron is available at number 13 or Will Johnson, you could pick him. But as my mock draft currently stands, with those players gone, you need to fill in that hole with Armstead gone and retired. He is a left tackle, but I think he could also move in guard if you want to look at a tackle later on in the draft. I think he can play any position really on the offensive line. I got Will Campbell at my number 13 pick for the Miami Dolphins. Number 14, the Indianapolis Colts. Let's go with an interesting pick because one player already is gone. I got another tight end, Colson Loveland, tight end out of Michigan. Loveland is probably one of the most premier route-running tight ends in this draft. I would say he's obviously number 2 behind Tyler Warren. He's capable of lining inline, in the slot, out wide. I think that just increases the production value of Loveland, and especially drafting him What, is 2 tight ends in the top 15? Has that ever happened in NFL history? I don't think so. The top 25, I think, has been decades probably since that's happened. But I think that with his skill set, with his ability, and with this offense, you could desperately use Loveland at the tight end position. And I think that the fact that he's 6'6" with long arms and an incredible catch radius, you're going to need that incredible catch radius and that height when you have Anthony Richardson, who can't complete a pass beyond 25 yards, and he only completes half of those. And also Daniel Jones, who's a dink and dunker. So you're going to need a guy who could put up a lot of production when it comes to short, or even when it comes to just going downfield, being productive down the field. So I think he's going to be a beautiful pickup for the Indianapolis Colts, who already have a wide receiver core if Loveland does get picked, full of Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, A.D. Mitchell, and you add Colson Loveland into this group, you have a competent quarterback. I think people will be picking the Colts to win the AFC South just based on that, just based on the weapons you have around what should be a competent quarterback if you did have one. But I think that Loveland, regardless of who the quarterback is week one, whether it's Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, Loveland is a massive pickup and a massive help for Shane Steichen and this Indianapolis Colts offense. I got him at number 14. Let's go to number 15, which is the Atlanta Falcons. Give me Shamar Stewart, edge rusher out of Texas A&M. Now, this was just embarrassing last year for the Atlanta Falcons. Their pass rush was abysmal. You traded for Matthew Judon, and it didn't help whatsoever. So that's what the Falcons have been over the course of the past couple seasons. They have struggled massively in generating consistent pressure on opposing quarterbacks, ranking last in the NFL in QB pressure rate since 2019. And last year, they were 31st in quarterback pressure percentage and tied for last in sack percentage with the New England Patriots, who everybody thought they had a great defense. Well, they did 2 years ago when they were the 7th best. Last year, they weren't great whatsoever, and that's most likely what propelled Mike Vrabel and Elliott Wolf to pursue a bunch of really key defensive pieces in free agency. But when it comes to Shamar Stewart, he is incredibly athletic. He has an insane amount of athleticism. He got a perfect 10.0 relative athletic score, which placed him among some of the top edge rushers, top defensive ends and edge rushers since 1987. When you get a perfect score, I'd say it's a pretty good draft pick for you, especially for a team that has struggled mightily against generating pressure. And at Texas A&M, he had incredible ability to line up on multiple positions along the defensive line. You can use him out wide. You can use him in the interior of the defensive line. You can use him all over. It gives Atlanta a very, very versatile and valuable asset on your defensive line for a defense that has struggled against, like I mentioned, generating pressure, and that's what the Falcons need. You have Michael Penix. You need your defense to perform better, and that starts with getting a decent pass rush and potentially generating some key turnovers in games. Let's go to the next pick, which is number 16, the Arizona Cardinals. Again, another very hard one to choose. I'm going with defensive lineman Derek Harmon out of Oregon at 6'5", 313 pounds with an 83 3/4 inch wingspan. He is a prototypical build for an NFL interior defensive lineman. He has a quick initial burst off the line, which allows him to penetrate gaps and disrupt plays in the backfield, which is key for the Cardinals' defense, which has not been good for several years at this point. Yes, they signed a couple key pieces, and they got Calais Campbell back, but you need a guy who is the future of your defensive line, which Harmon, I think, will be absolutely. He anchors very well on double teams. He maintains gap integrity, and he does great against stunting run defense. That's the big thing. You got to have a good running defense, which then force them to play one way, and that's the big thing. We can take a look at some of the terrible teams in the NFL over the past couple seasons. Like, for instance, everybody knew if you stop the Bengals from running the football, they're going to have to pass, which generates lackluster offense because you know what's coming. The Cowboys had no running game to start the season, so it was all up to Dak Prescott to make plays happen. When you have an average quarterback, guess what? It's going to expose you. It's just what's going to happen. It's going to expose you of an average quarterback. So having that defensive interior lineman to generate those pressures, stop the run, will help out the entire team, really, especially that defense, which in part helps out Kyler Murray offensively. And when it comes to Harmon, statistically last year, he had 45 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, and led all FBS interior linemen with 55 quarterback pressures. The Cardinals need someone on defense to generate those pressures, and this guy could be the future of your defensive line. I got Derek Harmon at number 16 to the Cardinals. Number 17, the Cincinnati Bengals. What do they do? After a free agency full of spending on 2 players, you need to draft defense, and I got Walter Nolan, defensive lineman out of Ole Miss. Obviously, as everybody knows, the Bengals need defense. They cost a lot of games last year because of their lackluster defensive performances. One, for instance, you let Derrick Henry in overtime run 51 yards instead of a game-winning field goal after your rookie punter botched the field goal snap. Not great. You spent an incredible amount of money on two players in T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Now, I think it's completely deserved and honestly the smart thing to do, keep Joe Burrow happy. But you also have to deal with Trey Hendrickson as well, who, by the way, still wants out. He still has his trade request out there. And also Sam Hubbard retires, so that's a key piece you lost in your defensive line. You need another enforcer with B.J. Hill, and I think definitely Nolan could be that guy. But the Bengals rank bottom half of the league in interior pass rush and run defense in 2024, and obviously Nolan will help them out massively and be a key fix for this Bengals defense. I think he has an explosive first step and ability, just like our boy Derek Harmon here, to expose those gaps, generate pressure, and penetrate those gaps, which they have a brand new DC in Al Golden. That kind of fits into what his philosophy is. His schemes often require linemen who adapt to multiple positions along the front, and Nolan has the ability to play both a 3 technique and a 5 technique. Help out the defensive line, help out the defense, allow Joe Burrow to do what he always does. Again, nobody's asking for a top 5, top 10, top 3 defense. You take a look at some of the most successful seasons the Bengals have had in years, and it's with the 14th, the 16th ranked defense. Give them a level of competency. Let Joe Burrow do what he normally does and just perform. Just have the defense help out just a little bit. And this is an AFC championship team. Give him an average defense, not a bottom 5, an average defense, and Joe Burrow will take you, I think, to the promised land. He's not asking for much. He's just asking for an average defense. Most average to good quarterbacks need a tremendous defense. Joe Burrow just needs competency. That's all he needs. Walter Nolan, defensive lineman, Ole Miss. I got him at number 17. Number 18, the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going with Kelvin Banks Jr., offensive tackle out of Texas. Now, he's a left tackle. Their problems are on the right side of the offensive line, but with his skill set, I think he can move over onto the right side pretty effectively and still succeed at a massive level. Last year, we thought the Patriots' offensive line was bad. Well, pass block efficiency, which heavily weights on sacks, the Seahawks are actually the worst by, I think, 0.1%. So technically, when you thought about pass block efficiency, the Seahawks had the worst offensive line in the NFL. They had the most pressures, the second most quarterback hurries, and the third most sacks. Geno was getting absolutely killed on the right side of the offensive line. And we just saw what Sam Darnold looked like while under pressure the last 2 games of the NFL season. The last game of the regular season and then that playoff game against the Los Angeles Rams where he got sacked, 9 times, got murdered, and he was basically seeing ghosts again like he did with the New York Jets. Nearly a third of, this is crazy, nearly a third of all pressures Geno Smith got last year were from the right tackle. Not the right side of the offensive line. No, one singular position generated nearly a third of all pressures. So you need to secure that spot above anything else. And I think with a guy who's 6'5", 315 pounds, with extremely long arms and has a powerful anchor, you can put him at any position, especially on the tackle spot. Help him out, help K9 out in the running game, which, by the way, they were 28th in rushing for 2024. Kelvin Banks has tremendous run blocking ability. To help him out on the edge, help Sam Darnold out, who crumbles under pressure. I think you desperately need to fix that right side of the offensive line. Banks will do that. He played left tackle basically his whole career. But just with his pure skill set and ability, he can move over to right tackle, and I think, and be very, very consistent. Because again, you need to switch up. You need to switch, your technique a little bit. But this skill set, pass blocking, run blocking, you can still do that at a very, very effective level, even though you're on the opposite side of the field. And especially with Kelvin Banks, I think he'll do that at a beautiful level if the Seahawks do draft him. Number 19, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Give me Jahad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama. Levante David, he's on his last licks. He's still a tremendous player, but he's on a 1-year contract, and they need a long-term solution at the linebacker position. And I think with Campbell's acquisition, I think that will be immediate depth and potential, maybe Pro Bowler, All-Pro, potentially. I think that will be massive for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He could play both as an off-ball linebacker on the edge and also play in the slot, down low, in the box. He could do everything at a pretty high level, I would say, which is very key for the Todd Bowles run team. And especially, here's the big thing. Here's the massive thing. He was 6th in run stop percentage last year. What do we know Todd Bowles' defense of always doing? stopping the run. So this is a perfect fit for Todd Bowles' defense. He was 5th in pressures last year, 5th in missed tackle percentage, 8th in yards allowed, and 11th in forced incompletion percentage. He could drop into coverage. He could play the run. He could play the pass. He could rush the passer as well, generate some pressures. And I think with his level of athleticism and instincts, I think he could cover tight ends, running backs if you need him for a quick out route. He could disrupt the passing lane for a wide receiver on a drag or a slant route. I would say Campbell would fit in beautifully with what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been building defensively under Todd Bowles. I got Jahad Campbell, linebacker, Alabama, going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 19. Number 20, the Denver Broncos. Who are they going to pick? I think the obvious one, just with the position that they're at, you desperately need this position. It's going to be a running back. Omarion Hampton, running back at a UNC. Javonte Williams, man, what a fall off. He had some of the worst production and efficiency in the NFL last year for a running back. And with him gone, you desperately need a power back who could carry the load for a physical Sean Payton offense. And I think Hampton fits in that role beautifully and has massive running back one upside. First of all, he's great in zone blocking schemes, which is tremendous for a Sean Payton run offense. I think that's the big thing. He also could cut back lanes and explode downhill. Again, Sean Payton loves that. And also, here's another thing Sean Payton loves. He's a 3-down skill set: pass catching, pass protection, and short yardage. That's everything that Sean Payton needs. I mean, think about who his running back was a couple years ago. Alvin Kamara, who is one of, if you talk about receiving backs or all-around running backs, when it comes to the passing lane and effectiveness in the ground game, Kamara's a top 5, top 6 running back in that case? Obviously, CMC when healthy is number 1, but Kamara's going to be up there as well. Sean Payton guy. So I think when it comes to Hampton, he is NFL-ready build with power and athleticism. He's a physical runner who embraces contact and barrels through you, and I think that he could definitely expand an offense for a Broncos team that relied heavily on running on early downs to set up the passing game for Bo Nix, and you desperately need that running game, especially for a young quarterback who needs an effective offense, who needs some easy things. I think Hampton gives you that playmaking ability to allow Bo Nix to dink and dunk and generate that yardage, push the ball downfield. And this team just went 10-7. It was a tremendous defensive team. I think you added some very key pieces on defense in free agency, but you desperately needed a running back. And I think Hampton at 20, I think you could consider him a steal at this point, in my opinion. So I got Omarion Hampton, running back, UNC, going over to the Denver Broncos at 20. They need a running back. This, in my opinion, is the best one available. Let's go to pick 21. The Pittsburgh. What are they going to do? Because I hinted weeks ago that maybe Shedeur Sanders could fall to the Pittsburgh Steelers. You could argue maybe with TJ Watt throwing up the deuces on social media. Could he be traded away? What is going to be the move? Najee Harris is gone. Are you going to trust Jalen Warren? Could it be back-to-back running back picks? Jackson Dart, quarterback, Ole Miss. That's my pick. That's my little bit of surprise of the draft, if you want, because currently the Steelers have Mason Rudolph at quarterback, and they're waiting for Rodgers to wake up and sign or go towards the light and just commit to retirement. That's what they're dealing with right now. And I think that when it comes to it, Dart's experience in RPO and play action systems at Ole Miss fits in beautifully with Arthur Smith's offense. And we have to realize, in 2024, Jackson Dart, he was 6th in adjusted completion percentage, 2nd in big-time throw percentage. And here's something that's big. Here's something that I've talked about that could be at the detriment of maybe some top-tier passing quarterbacks. But for young quarterbacks, Arthur Smith is actually not a bad choice at OC because he never asked his quarterback to do much. In his coaching career, as head coach and as offensive coordinator, his quarterbacks are 28th in pass attempts and 24th in yards on average. His quarterbacks don't need to do much. The Steelers just made it to the playoffs with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, and they did basically nothing in the passing game. Nothing where it says, okay, top 10 passer, even top 15, hell, top 20 passing game. That's not what Arthur Smith does. He focuses heavily on the run. So my guess would be, I think the Steelers could have a potential opportunity to draft Jackson Dart so you have your quarterback of the future and get a solid 7-8 year running back in this draft. Scatterbo, you could get Henderson late in this draft, maybe if he doesn't go in the first round. I think that, and let's say you do get Rodgers. I think that Jackson Dart learning under Rodgers to refine his game, to perfect his game, because we know Brady has said several times he has no idea why these young quarterbacks are playing so often. He thinks that the best course of action is for have a quarterback sit behind a veteran to learn the game more. They're coming out of the draft very raw, and we see recently what these young quarterbacks are doing. Anthony Richardson should be on his way out. Trey Lance is a backup for the Los Angeles Chargers, but he was a disgrace with the San Francisco 49ers. The 2021 draft, the only starter is right now Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. Everybody else, Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson even signed to a team right now? I don't think so. Mac Jones is the backup for Brock Purdy. I mean, at this point, it's a disgrace just how bad that draft turned out to be when there was a lot of potential in that draft, at least initially, and this is where we're at right now. So, Jackson Dart, the Steelers need a quarterback in the future. Rodgers is not going to be your guy for beyond the maximum 2 years. He probably has 1 year left. You need the quarterback of the future. I think you get Jackson Dart here at 21, and those are my picks. Part 2, the 11 to 21 picks. So there we go.
Very interesting. I think some of those players are already gone that you have going to some of those teams, which I might comment on here as we get into my picks. Are you going to put up my first 10?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have, the key pieces that have been talked about the most going in the first 10 picks. Cam Ward, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter. I think Will Campbell's gone, Nate, at number 4 to the Patriots. They really need an offensive lineman. We agreed on Mason Graham. I think Gentry's gone to the Raiders.
I am going to the Raiders as well.
Yeah, and I think he's really the only first-round running back. I think that you'll see. For the Broncos, you picked the running back for them.
He's the only first-round running back?
I think so. I don't think the others are talented enough to be in the compared to the other players that are available. That's why I went away from running back for when you'll see my pick for the Broncos. I agree they need a running back, but I just think there are more talented players there that you could pick. I had McMillan. I had Sanders gone into the Jets. McMillan gone to the Panthers. We agreed on Will Johnson, I think.
Yeah, we did.
Josh Simmons, I don't think you have him picked yet, right?
No, I do not have him selected.
Okay, let's move into my picks.
So the number 11 pick.
Yeah, the 49ers. Well, they need defensive line. They need edge. They need offensive line. They need running back. They need cornerback. You went with the cornerback to the 49ers. I say, given the free agent exodus making them thin on both the offensive line and the defensive line, I think the defensive line is their worst problem, but they're also going to need an heir apparent to Trent Williams. He's 37 years old and is also a priority for them as edge rusher opposite Nick Bosa is also a priority, I think. So I think they should go defensive line. I got Derek Harmon. You had him going to the Cardinals. I don't think he'll last that long. I think the 49ers are going to take him. 6'5", 350, 21 years old. He's a monster. He's a towering frame, impressive length. They give him a fantastic physical base to work with. He's strong playmaking instincts. He's very good technically. Maybe the one weakness he has is he got to be a little more patient. Sometimes he over pursues. He's still learning how to use his hands as well effectively. In 42 games, he had 116 tackles. 17 for losses of 75 yards. He had 8.5 sacks for 51 yards lost, and he hit the quarterback 15 times. I think he's a very good choice for the 49ers at pick number 11. Moving on to the Cowboys. I agree with you. They need a wide receiver, but that's not all they need. They need running back, cornerback, linebacker, and defensive line. There's no consistent threat other than CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver. They did bring in free agents Devontae Williams and Miles Sanders to fit as complementary pieces. But Dallas should, I think they need to draft a running back. But as I said, I don't think there's elite in terms of all the players and the talent that's there in the first round. I think Gent was the best one, and the rest of those guys should be more second, third round picks. So they need defense as well from injuries and free agency departures. But I agree with you; they need to go wide receiver. I have McMillan going to the Panthers, so he's not available. So I'm taking Luther Burden. He's 5'11", 206 pounds. And he is a big play machine. He's a dynamic when he gets the ball in space. He's best out of the slot. He's versatile, explosive, and his quickness in the short passing game will work well with Dak Prescott. He's strong enough to play through contact. Maybe his weakness is he's built more like a running back than a receiver. His lack of height, his length, and press coverage will be a challenge for him, particularly on 50-50 balls. He may have some problems with that. So he had some drops and easy catches, too, which may be a little bit of a concern. 38 games, he had 192 catches, 22, almost 2,300 yards, 21 TDs. He can run the ball, too. He had 34 carries, 234 yards, and 4 TDs. I think he'd be a great pickup for the Cowboys to complement CeeDee Lamb and give that offense an extra punch. Moving on to number 13, the Miami Dolphins. You know, the Dolphins need offensive line, defensive line, safety, cornerback, tight end. They need to get much tougher on the offensive line and the defensive line, with the offensive line being a priority with Teron Armstead's retirement. Replacing Javon Holland at safety is also a must. And now they got the issue with Jalen Ramsey, who's looking for a trade. But even though they've got all those holes on the defense, I think they should go with offensive line to give more protection to Tua. And you agreed, too. You picked offensive tackle Will Campbell, and I had him going to the Patriots, so he's not available. So I went with Armand Membo, the offensive lineman from Missouri, 6'3", 325 pounds. He has a lot of versatility, power, and athleticism. He's a smooth-moving blocker and pass protection. He's got a stout frame, allows him to anchor well in the run game and handle power rushes. He's got an impressive balance of strength and agility. His one weakness is he needs to work more on his technique, particularly his hand use and his balance. Sometimes he doesn't react quick enough to attack the opponent. I think he'll likely be a better guard than a tackle in the NFL, and they may move him there because of the hand issues. They are working with his hands. So I agree, offensive lineman. I had Campbell going to the Patriots, so I'd go with Armand Membo for Miami. Got to protect Tua because he can't get any more concussions. Moving on to the Colts at number 14. They need a tight end. They need an offensive lineman. They need linebacker, edge, and running back. I think the quarterbacks need a safety valve, which a talented tight end could provide. Given both starting offensive tackles are free agents next year, the offensive line should also be in focus. I agree with you, tight end is a spot, but you had Tyler Warren gone in the first 10. I have him still available, and I'd go with him as he. I think we both agree he's a little bit better talent than Loveland, but you had him gone in your first 10. So I'd go with Tyler Warren, tight end from Penn State, 6'6", 261. Sounded like Gronk to me. His strengths are he's a modern NFL prototype tight end, rare athleticism, versatility for someone his size. He's comfortable as a downfield receiver and a run blocker. That sounds like Gronk to me. Can take direct snaps in short yardage situations. That's something, if they eliminate the tush push, he might be valuable to the Colts in that kind of a play. He can line up as a wide receiver to challenge the cornerbacks. He has a knack for meeting making the acrobatic play and the big reception in clutch moments. I guess his one weakness is he lacks elite straight line speed, but he's plenty fast enough given his size and his strength. In 56 games, he had 153 receptions, almost 2,000 yards, 12 yards per catch, 19 TDs. He also rushed the ball 32 times, had 6 TDs. So he's an all-around player. I think he looks a lot like, an all-pro to me in the Gronk kind of mold. Moving on to the Falcons. Here we agree. Shamir Stewart, 6'6", 285. I think, Falcons need edge. They need defensive line. They need cornerback, offensive line, and safety. But you mentioned the stats there since 2019. They've only had 169 sacks. All the other teams had at least 198, close to 200. They also ranked last in the QB pressure rate. You mentioned that. You mentioned all the strengths of Sanders. He's a massive frame and wingspan, impressive athleticism and movement, skills for his size. He's explosive off the ball. He's got a nonstop motor. Maybe his weakness is he needs to refine his technique a little bit more as he relies more on his raw ability. In 37 games, he had 65 tackles, 11 tackles for losses of 40 yards, 4.5 sacks for 27 yards lost, and he hit the quarterback 17 times. So he looks like a great talent. He's the best-ranked edge rusher in the draft as far as I'm concerned. Moving on to the Cardinals. They need the offensive line, wide receiver, edge, defensive line, cornerback. You had them going with Derek Harmon. I had him going number 11, so he's not available. One quality starter from, I think they're one quality starter from making their offensive line good instead of okay. And a wide receiver could also help complement Harrison. And free agency moves favored the defense, but they still need help with the pass rush. But here, I think there's a unique opportunity to pick a wide receiver who would complement Marvin Harrison Jr. very well, who actually played with Marvin Harrison Jr. at Ohio State. Emeka Egbuka. He's the wide receiver from Ohio State, 6'1", 206 pounds. He played with Marvin Harrison at Ohio State. He's best suited, I think. He's a solid number 2. The Cardinals have their number 1 in Harrison. What they look for is a solid number 2 in the passing game, and he has a high floor as a reliable target who knows how to get open and catch every ball that comes his way. He's a well-rounded pass catcher with a polished skill set. Can line up outside or in the slot. There's lots of experience, 49 games with Ohio State, 205 receptions, almost 3,000 yards, 14 yards per catch, 24 TDs. Ran the ball 24 times and scored 2 TDs. I like him a lot. I think that there would be synergy there with him playing alongside Marvin Harrison Jr. Moving on to number 17, the Bengals. You had them picking a defensive lineman, Walter Noland. They need, I think that maybe every player they draft is going to be on the defense. They need linebacker, edge, safety, cornerback. They also need to strengthen their offensive line. It might be an all-defensive draft by the Bengals. The wide receiver contracts are done. They need to make a deal with Trey Hendrickson, I think, so they can use the draft to shore up the secondary. And that's why I went with Maliki Starks. Malachi. Starks, a safety from Georgia, 6'1", 205. He's a do-it-all playmaker. He lines up all over the field and makes big things happen. He has the size and physicality to hang with the tight ends and bigger receivers in man coverage. He's got impressive ball skills and ability to win the 50-50 balls. Maybe his one weakness is the quicker receivers can give him trouble in man coverage. In 43 games, he had 197 tackles, 5.5 tackles for a loss of 13 yards, and 6 interceptions for 89 yards. So he looks like the best safety to me in the draft, and I'm counting on the Bengals to re-sign Trey Hendrickson so they can focus on the secondary. I think he'd be their best first pick there. Moving on to the Seahawks. They need the offensive lineman. They need a wide receiver. They need cornerback. They need safety. They need defensive line. They need to be better all along the offensive line, particularly on the interior. And the rebuilding at wide receiver shouldn't end with the signing of Cooper Kupp and Marquise Valdez-Scantling, who are both over 30 years old. And the defense, on the defense, Devon Witherspoon is the only starting caliber cornerback signed beyond 2025. So they got a lot of holes to fill. But I agree with you. Kelvin Banks is the guy to pick. The offensive tackle from Texas, 6'4", 320 pounds. He's an impressive athlete with a ton of starting experience. He plays 3 years as a starter. He moves extremely well on as both a run blocker and a pass blocker. Clean footwork and effective hand usage. Ability to get out on the move and lead the way in space is a huge asset for him. His one weakness, I think he relies on his finesse game when power is required. So I like him a lot. I think I agree with you. He'd be a great pick for the Seahawks. Moving on to number 19, the Bucks. I think it will likely be a defensive-heavy draft for them as well. You mentioned Levante David, who's been the foundational piece for more than a decade with the Bucks. It's time for the Bucks to think about the long-term future at linebacker. And I agree with you. Linebacker is what they should go, but I wouldn't go with Campbell. I would go with Jalon Walker, the linebacker from Georgia, 6'2", 245 pounds. He's a rare combination of ideal size and top-flight athleticism. His versatility allows him to line up at multiple spots and make splash plays, whether he was lived up to or he was lined up off the ball or on the edge. They can match routes and coverage with his athletic ability. Maybe his one weakness is his experience. He was only a full-time starter for the first time in 2024, but he has some nice stats. 45 games, 89 tackles, 18 tackles for losses of 100 yards, 12.5 sacks, losses for 90 yards, and 8 quarterback hits. So I agree with you, linebacker, but I would go with Walker instead of Campbell.
Well, I had Walker going 8 to the Panthers, we have to remember. So he was already gone for me. Jalen Walker went 8 to the Panthers.
Who do you have?
I know. I had Campbell, but I'm talking about.
No, I'm talking Jahapi. Is that his name? Campbell. He's the linebacker that you took.
Oh,
for the
Jahad
Bucs.
Campbell. Yeah,
Jahad
yeah. I'm
Campbell.
saying, yeah.
Campbell.
Walker for me is already gone. He went number 8
No, I know.
overall.
Walker's
Yeah.
already gone. Okay.
Yeah. We're good.
So you think he's the next best
Yeah,
linebacker?
absolutely.
Got it. Okay, on to the Broncos. They need a running back. They need a wide receiver. They need a cornerback. They need a tight end. They need a defensive lineman. I agree that the weakest position and the thing that they need the most is a running back, because the strategy should be to focus on improving the supporting cast behind and around Bo Nix. Running back is the need that stands out the most, but as I said, I don't think the other elite players here that are more talent than the remaining running backs in the draft beyond Gente. So I think that they when you had them taking Hampton at running back, I think that they have to also consider that Courtland Sutton's contract is expiring after the end of this year. Improving the defensive depth could be considered as well, but overall their defense is in pretty good shape, I think. They played pretty well last year, and they got most of those guys back. So I'm looking at a tight end. I think Colston Loveland, who talent-wise, if you're looking at best player available in some of these cases, you could make a case for him at that on that criteria. 6'5", 245, size and athleticism. You mentioned all his qualities. Too big for the defensive backs and too explosive for the linebackers to cover. So he's going to be open a lot. It's a position that the Broncos need. In 39 games, he had 117 receptions, almost 1,500 yards, 11 TDs, and 12.5 yards per catch. I think he'd be a great complement on the offense and a nice safety valve for Bo Nix to throw to. And I think he's going to be open a lot given his size and his speed. Okay, on to the Steelers. And you mentioned, I agree. They need a quarterback.
This is my shock of the draft.
They need a running back. They need a defensive line, wide receiver, and offensive line. I was shocked you picked Dart. I think they're going to sign Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. They need a running back to replace Najee Harris. And they need to get younger on the defensive line with Cam Hayward, 36 years old now. I think they look to the future and draft Kenneth Grant, the defensive lineman from Michigan. He's 6'3", 339 pounds. He's described as built like a deep freezer, making him difficult to move, making him a strong anchor in the run and commanding double teams and blocks on almost every play. They're going to be calling him the deep freezer. He's equally effective from multiple interior alignments. He's a smart player who adjusts quickly. His one weakness, maybe he's not as strong a pass rusher, but he's going to interior alignment, and he's huge. He's going to take up a lot of space there, stuff the run. At 41 games, 69 tackles for losses, 11.5. So not too bad there. He had 6.5 sacks, too, and 9 quarterback hits. So maybe he can rush the quarterback a little better than the experts think. So those are my picks, Nate.
I'm not going to lie. Read it. Kenneth Grant to the Steelers. I don't hate that pick, actually.
Okay, well, thank you.
I don't hate. I do think, though, you're just
Cam Hayward's getting old, man.
I agree, but didn't he just sound like a 2-3
And look at their
deal?
defense. Their defense is like they're great at the beginning of the year. They run out of gas.
Well,
they need some young
that
players
on Mike
over
Tomlin.
there.
I don't think young players will do anything about that because they do have a decent amount of young guys. Peyton Wilson, I believe, was a rookie last year. He's extremely young. Joey Porter is a very young cornerback.
Yeah, but those are back. They need the line. They up front. They need to put the pressure on the quarterback. And they need to stop the run. Stop the run. This guy do it. He's so big.
Well, Loudermilk,
he takes up the whole offensive line just by himself.
What's it called? Loudermilk is what? He's drafted in 2021 5th-round pick, so he's an extremely young starter on the defensive line. If you were just to say best player fits, would running back go to the Steelers in your opinion?
Yes.
So you would pick what, Trayvon Henderson?
If Ashton Genty had been available, I would have had him for the Steelers. I would have picked him. Well, probably not. You know what? I probably would have picked him for the Broncos, so he wouldn't have been there. I would have picked him for the Broncos if he'd been available. But I had to go with a better player available. Loveland, look at him. This is like Gronk, the kind of size and speed and blocking ability of these two tight ends. Those are two of the best players that we've seen at tight end in quite a long time. I mean, the Raiders drafted, who was that guy they drafted last year?
Last year?
Yeah. The Raiders tight end.
The Raiders, Ravens, Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
He's
look how
incredible.
he played. He's incredible.
He's incredible.
These guys are right up there with him, I think.
Oh, wow.
Both of them.
Wow.
What the size of Brock Bowers? He's not as big as
6'6".
6'6", 261. 6'5", 245.
Brock Bowers is 6'4", 230.
Okay, so these guys are bigger and stronger and faster.
Well, here's the thing: we both have Loveland and Warren gone.
Yeah.
We're not. I'm just disagreeing with the fact that
you had him gone in the first 10.
I had Tyler Warren going to the Bears because Cole Kmet, he hit a wall, and in order to just got to help out Caleb Williams a little bit more, you give him Tyler Warren. Mm-hmm. I could also see running back. I think that's a perfectly fine pick. Although Genty is gone, which then you would need to trust Omarion Hampton or Trayvon Henderson to go out there and then be that running back that you're looking for. That you missed out on Genty. You got to hopefully this guy's good. But again, we're doing no trades, so maybe the Bears could trade back. The Cowboys could trade back if Tet McMillan's gone and they don't love and Ashton Genty's gone. They may trade back. Hell, the Patriots at number 4 may trade back if they're not getting their guy.
I think Will Campbell will be there for.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree. But yeah, those are our picks 11 to 21. Next Tuesday, the Tuesday before the draft, we will finish it up with picks 22 to 32. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But for this episode of the Harvey Hour, we always thank you for the constant support. As always, my name is Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We have been your co-hosts of the Harvey Hour. Catch us Friday. We're discussing the NBA playoffs. They are now basically in full swing, and especially tonight with Golden State and Memphis. We're going to discuss that, I'm sure, on Friday and talk about the NBA playoffs on Friday. So be here, Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Good night, Grandpa.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN, online security.